Welcome back. It's fall and a beautiful fall it is, 2017. We're back doing some episodes. Dave Forrest and I will, between now and Christmas, walk through Groundwork and mostly allied vehicles, mostly green vehicles, olive drab. We're going to cover a lot of olive drab this fall. If you're a German mauler, it's no problem. You'll be able to adapt this Groundwork, obviously, easy enough. So, Dave is going to go into great detail painting his Sherman tank and weathering his Sherman tank. And I'm going to cover a lot on the Groundwork in the European Theatre of War, which isn't different than Southern Ontario, I don't think. So, but anyway, I'm going to talk shortly about bases, how to make bases, how to actually get to this point. Obviously, this isn't a World War II vehicle, but the Groundwork is certainly something that I can describe how I built it, the steps in which to build it, and how easy it is. Because as you guys know, Dave and I cover off a lot of easy steps, but with advanced results. And the same goes for the Groundwork that I do. Everyone who's, even if you live in an apartment, you're not going to make a lot of mess. You're not going to do a lot of sanding. You're not going to upset, a situation in an apartment where you're going to have to use power tools and all that sort of stuff, making loud noise and stuff like that. So, like I say, these are basic techniques, but advanced results. I think the most important thing is being patient, and I think a lot of us have that if we're plastic maulers. So, so the upcoming season is going to be grand in the fall of 2017. We haven't put a program together yet for moving into 2018, but I'm sure Dave and I will come up with some modeling to do. Dave Forrest, welcome Dave back to the videos.
Thank you, Dave.
And Dave is going to walk us through some of the steps of painting his Sherman tank, actually mostly weathering it, and how he's getting his fantastic streaking and modulation. Dave's put some fantastic decals down on his model. I think we'll go into depth on how he laid them down, things like that. So, Dave, just give us a brief thing of what you're going to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So the vehicle here has changed a little bit since I think people last saw it, and one of the things that we're going to talk about in the very near future is getting some weathering and some mud on the running gear here, as you see here. So we'll do a detailed episode on that, and then a couple of things that have changed. One, I've got some decals down on it, as you can see here. These are an aftermarket decal set from Star Decals, and I believe I picked these up at a show somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but they're great range of options for you. They can be a little bit difficult to get down in some areas. This, for example, here, this star here is a decal, and I have to cut it up with an X-Acto blade to get it to kind of sit and use lots and lots of setting solution to get it to sit down properly. And then I ran a wash over it and some streaking over it to kind of work it into the finish.
It's a great looking decal, though, Dave.
Yeah, it was. It fought me there. It was a little tough, but the secret, I think, is making sure you've got a good gloss coat down, which is what I did, and I use a Model Master Aquarel gloss. I find that's the best gloss on the market, and the key reason for that is it gives me consistent results. And when I spray it on, it doesn't darken the base color. It doesn't alter the base color at all. It's one of the few glosses that really, I think the only gloss I've run into that doesn't do that. So for that reason, primarily, that's my go-to gloss.
I think the only difficult with that gloss is that the tester's gloss coat is drying up on the market. It's harder for Hornet Hobbies to find it, and probably other hobby shops too. So if one sees it out there, pick up maybe 2 bottles.
Yeah, grab it. Yeah, augment your stash, because that stuff is gold as far as I'm concerned. And then also I use the same flat from the Model Master Aqua range to dull everything down and bring back the flat finish. So with that, and these decals can be some I find they're hit and miss. The Star decals I think was the old Bison decals.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And they're great because there's, like I said, a ton of range and gives you a bunch of different options for finishing all kinds of vehicles. I think they even have some World War One, a lot of World War Two stuff.
Yeah, I think contemporary stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even up to the modern war in Syria and in the Ukraine. So they're very much on top of things. And I think the other key thing here is when you put your decals on, just make sure that you're incorporating them into your finish. That you're applying washes on them, you're streaking over them, and you're kind of dulling them down. There's nothing worse than having a heavily weathered model with a very bright decal on it, and that's something that Dave has definitely coached me on over the years. So.
That's really great, Dave.
Thank you. We'll also look at not only doing the weathering on the side here, the running gear. We'll look at how we do it on the tracks. Again, this is this is an out of the box build, so we'll be using the band tracks that came with this. So I'll show you how to do that, and just sort of building the weathering up to make sure it's consistent and kind of covering the parts of the vehicle that it needs to cover. So that'll be we'll do that over the course of a few episodes. And then I think we'll also look at. I don't think we ever showed the modulating. So getting the modulating, which is kind of to me a critical starting point for everything. So we'll get another model, and I'll show you how the mixes I've used and the different paints I've used and whatnot to get and actual airbrushing it to show you how to get it nice and modulated so that it pops going forward. And again that's key because getting that first step. Going really, I think, adds to the finished effect of the model. So, yeah, so lots more to come on this.
And then by the end of the season, because Dave and he'll build the bottle and paint the model, and I'm going to do the Normandy groundwork. So, certain books and what have you, obviously there's a heck of a lot of reference to that theater of the war, so finding pictures or anything to duplicate and then creating it on the groundwork is going to be pretty simple.
Yeah, getting historical pictures are a great source of inspiration.
Yeah, and France, in the Normandy campaign, it isn't unlike where you and I live here in Ontario. So, if we're not using, because obviously a lot of pictures are black and white, we're going to not have to drive too far to figure out color groundwork and the type of trees and that sort of stuff. Those kinds of things are, like I say, are pretty simple. Mm-hmm. It's just nice that we live where we live. If you're a modeler in Florida, you can't necessarily go outside and try to pretend that you're in, the Normandy campaign based on vegetation. So you and I are lucky, but what we'll do is we'll walk through the groundwork and, it'll be, so that here it is in September now. I think by the end of the season, and the end of the season being probably the American Thanksgiving, this little vignette is going to be, and there will be little triggers to tell you that it's Normandy beyond the tank. I mean, the tank, based on the decals, might tell us that, but sometimes Sherman tanks are not decorated the way Dave's is, and we don't want to pretend for 1 second you can have a choice of putting this in the Pacific Theater of War or the French campaign. What we definitely want to do based on the groundwork is tell you right away when you look at it that you're on the Normandy or European Theater of War versus the Pacific. So, and the Sherman tank, like the M10, it fought in all theaters of war, Italian and Pacific, and obviously the Russians used it on the front to some degree too. So if you're not pinpointing with the type of decals you have, you're going to have to pinpoint it down just with the groundwork. So all those things come into play as we move forward, and this fall season is going to take all those things into consideration. It's going to be a great series, and there's about 7 or 8 videos. So we're going to fill up your time frame between now and Christmas, and then we'll come up with a new story in the spring of 2018. I mean, I also think that I'm gonna do a little talk just on the Vietnam vegetation and things like that, groundwork, just because of the Ken Burns Vietnam series, which I'm sure you're all watching, and so there's going to be great footage of all that, which I'm going to put into a bit of groundwork as well. So, and there'll be new M113 out, and no doubt you guys will be taking out your Dragon M48s now. And so it's great how television will influence what we're going to build later that night or on the following weekend. So anyway, Dave, thanks so much for joining us, and good to see you.
My pleasure.
And,
Thank you.
We'll have you come back in a week or so, and we'll get that weathering started.
Fantastic.
Right now, I'm going to do a video on groundwork, and then we'll just take it from there. And thanks for watching.
Thanks.